Welcome back. In this video, we're going to do some tips and tricks in how to deal with thread tension issues from the top to the bottom. Issues with thread tension can cause things like skipped stitches, elongated stitches, bunching up in the bobbin area, and thread breakage. So it's a very important thing that you need to do when you are getting ready to sew. Tension is not a one-time set and done kind of thing. It needs to be adjusted regularly, every bobbin change, every time you change thread color, if you're using variegated, if you're using different weights of thread. It is something that needs to be adjusted each time. You're not going to break it. It's easy to do. It just takes a little bit of practice. One of the other things that you need to be aware of is, the different types of thread, trying to make sure that you're using the same weight in and out, because it's going to affect how you need to do your tightening on your bobbin as well. So let's start with tension of our bobbin. I always recommend that you deal with your bobbin first in terms of getting that tension, because you have a knob for the top tension that you can adjust to match what you have going on in the bobbin tension. Your tension for sewing needs to be tighter than when you are quilting. I should be able to lift this up. This is totally different. And that's because we really need to create a good interlocking stitch when we are sewing two pieces together. We don't have the batting, we don't have the bouncing and all of that. So I should be able to, again, lift it from my hand. If I give it a shake, it wants to drop down a little bit like a yo-yo. If the tension is too tight, then you're going to use your hopping foot height gauge to loosen, so counterclockwise. Right, so that's too loose for sewing. Can you see how it's standing up, but I can't lift it. So I do want to be able to lift that. If I need to tighten, we're going to go clockwise until we get some good tension. The next thing is I want a good sized tail, but I don't want one too long or I'm going to get it wrapped around things. So once you've got that set, you're going to insert your bobbin as we showed you in a previous video. All right, so we have our bobbin properly threaded and the tension good there. So everything we're going to focus on now is going to be the top tension. So we have our tensioner here. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want to make sure that you pull both of your tails all the way through. If you're starting a new bobbin, you'll want to pull that bobbin up. So make sure that you drop your lever back here, because this is what's going to engage your tension. Now, just so I can show you what it looks like, I'm going to leave it up and I'm going to go ahead and do some stitching so you can see and be able to identify, oh, I forgot to put my foot down. So one, it's not going to pull through very well, but you can kind of hear how hard it was for me to kind of pull that out. And you're going to get all kinds of wonky tension there. So you can see the stitches are all kinds of different lengths on the back, and it's going to be really loose. I'm going to be able to pull it out real easy. All right, so we're going to take some test stitches. And now let's take a look. So this is my front, and as you can see, I can move with my finger the thread. So I'm clearly too loose there. On the back side, I'm nice and even, so I know my foot is down. But again, I can see my top thread coming through. That's called railroading. So I obviously have some tension issues. So we're going to do some adjustments. I'm using a relatively large stitch because that's what's going to help me better see my tension before I make any adjustments. If I have a tight stitch, it's just not going to show up as well, and I'm going to think I have good tension when I don't. So use a large stitch to get started. All right, so drop the foot to engage the tension, and now you're going to turn your knob. So I'm going to turn it a little bit at a time, and it goes clockwise. So you have some numbers here to help guide you. What I have found when I'm sewing, somewhere from 2 to 3 seems to be really dialed in, but again, that's going to depend. Really just kind of feel it out and get comfortable with your machine. So I'm going to get in the 2 here, and I'm going to do a couple more test stitches and see how it's going to go. All right, so this is my second row of stitching. It is a little bit tighter, but I can still see some railroading, and I'm getting that evenly on both sides. Another way that you can tell that I'm not quite dialed in, and I'm doing this in the center because I didn't lock my stitches on the edges, so those would obviously pull out, but they are coming apart a little bit, so that's just not quite locked into place. So we're going to dial it a little bit more, and we're going to test again. All right, that's looking a lot better, but you can still see a little bit of the red coming up on this side, but very little. It looks very even. My back here is also looking a little bit better. My stitches seem tighter. Now I am using two different colors, so it's very hard to get them to completely disappear, which is why this is a good test. I could probably go just a little bit tighter and have a really nice locked-in stitch. So one more adjustment, and we should be there. Yeah, so I'm not getting any puckering. If it's too tight, I'll show you too tight here in a minute, but that is looking a lot better. It's very even on both sides. That's good. See, I'm not pulling apart anymore, right? So that is a good stitch. Okay, I'm going to really torque this down so I can kind of show you what happens if it's too tight on top. All right, here's a good example of being too tight. So you see how I'm getting some puckering right there? Because I've got the top tension is really pulling on that bottom tension. And so you can see I've got a lot, it starts to get uneven because it's really grabbing that fabric and pulling it. So that is too tight, right? If you're still having tension issues and you've done all the things right, just double check. You've checked your pathway. You don't have anything looped up here. You've pulled this out, you've checked to make sure that's not getting caught. Everything looks good and you're still having tension issues. You may need to adjust your tensioner disc here. Inside, there is a little screw. So you take a flathead screwdriver, and if this is starting to get a little out of wonk, you're going to readjust this. When you do that, this is going to move a little bit, so you want to get this back into position before you get it back into place. This whole unit is going to turn when you do that, so you want to make sure that you are getting a good angle coming down here, that you have this. If this is shifted to down or to up, when you pull, you're not going to get that nice straight angle as it comes around this, right? So everything along the way is going to maintain that. It's not something you have to do very often, but every once in a while you'll have to adjust that as well. So that is thread tension. We have a great guide on our website under resources that shows you, if you're seeing this, it's the bottom. If you're seeing this, it's the top. Check this, check that. It's got lots of pictures. Definitely check that out. It will help you diagnose whatever tension issues that you're having. Like to know more about how to deal with tension issues? Please check out your manual that came with the Little Rebel. You can also find that manual on graceframe.com under resources, and we also have a resource guide on our website that has everything to do with thread tension. So definitely check that out as well. Been thinking about a Little Rebel? Want to know more? You can find that information out also on our website or contact our salespeople at sales@graceframe.com. They're a wealth of knowledge and they'll tell you a lot more. In the next video, stick around because we are going to be talking about needles and the importance of needles, how to install your needle, and when to use what needle.